A new financial system is required, and a new system is being prepared. Most of them leading towards one point, which is kind of really clear here. Now, when you actually go through this document and read through this, it will enhance your understanding about the fast approaching future. Read this. In contrast to the Bitcoin network, a central bank DLT system could consist of a large number of identified and accountable network nodes that, in line with certain rules, establish consensus on the transactions that occur. Blockchain providers such as Hyperledger or Coda by R3, which partner with central banks around the world to test CBDC prototypes, also use these permissioned blockchains that have known and trusted validators. Again, permissioned blockchains that have known and trusted validators. If you are receiving value out of the content, do hit the like button, subscribe button, and the bell notification icon to get updated about the future videos. This one kind of lead us to many different aspects through what is happening as of now, because we can actually see many things brewing in. But when we also see that the entire financial landscape is actually changing and the framework is being laid out, meaning a different framework, but incorporating the existing one is something different, because as we can see that the central banks are coming out with central bank digital currencies and XRP acting as a bridge, an institution which actually will be monitored by, say, the IMF, the World Bank, Bank of International Settlements, will play a major role in the new financial system, because the international organizations such as World Bank, Bank of International Settlement, and IMF strongly support central bank independence, so that the central banks will not be directly controlled fully, but the efficiency of which will be actually enhanced using a world central bank. Now, that is my way of thinking. I don't know how many of you will agree on this with me, but this is what I foresee. Now, along with this, we have a set of information like this, which actually kind of clarifies my aspect and why I think so. And these are actually based on new standards. Recently, we came to know that ISO 20022 and Ripple being the first in the DLT area, but it was actually there from November 27. Now, that just came to my attention today. But as we move on, we get the talk about SDR in a two different way, the retail and a wholesale. Then as we move ahead, again, Bank of International Settlements showing the turmoil is not over. We need some kind of a change. And then the Hyperledger, which we just talked about, is there practicing or partnering with Ripple and Accenture. Things are actually moving in a different way. But the aspects are all leading to a new monetary system, which according to is kind of a new global financial system using an interoperability layer, which kind of, for which XRP is a blade running through it. Welcome to the Scientific Investor channel, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Now remember, before this scenario is actually coming out, there can be a shakeout of the weak hands, in the sense it can be a dump or even it can be a pump. Now, don't be confused when I say a dump or a pump, because say for example, when the price is dumping, it's clear how the weak hands will be shaken out. But when the price pumps, say for example, it really has to go till 140,000%, just for example, like last time, but it pumps 2,000% first and kind of drops 50%. So what happens with the weak hands is they'll take that profit with them and then wait for the price to go even lower to buy. But think if it's pumping from there another 100 or 1,000%, 2,000%, they'll actually miss the number of units of XRP which they have. So in the sense, say now they have 10k or even say 1000 XRP right now, and after the pump, couple of pumps like that, they'll end up with 500 XRP, meaning they lost 500 units of XRP from their holdings. So this can actually happen. So in that aspect, you should actually keep an eye on the price, how the price action is actually affecting the daily movements, or even at least on a weekly basis. If you are actually updated with the price, how it is responding to different support and resistance level can actually give you more opportunity to trade with. This is the first article through which we'll actually go, but briefly. Now, it is actually titled The Death of Central Bank Myth. For decades, monetary policy has been treated as technical, not political, but the pandemic is actually kind of changing what is happening right now. So keep an eye on that smile. Now, I don't actually know what was the actual scene behind a sentence from the same article, which was actually highlighting what is actually coming ahead, because they all think there is a change required and it is actually coming through, and we actually end up something like this. Though it is flawed in many ways, the court's judgment does expose the real gap between the reality of 21st century central banking and the conventional understanding of its mission, inherited from the 20th century. So, what we need is a new monetary constitution, and we are kind of leading towards that based on what's happening as of now due to the current pandemic. The world is kind of pumping trillions of dollars into it. And when we say that, when usually we talk about the pump in crypto market, many directly point their hand towards like, no, the price cannot actually go that much because the market cap will be so huge. Now, personally, I'll say that doesn't make any sense. If governments can actually balloon their balance sheet like this, then market cap doesn't make any sense at that point, because if you just look at the amount of money just one central bank Fed pumped into the economy during this crisis, that is like in trillions, around $10 trillion. So when we actually look at that, after the crisis, say the post-crisis world, the financial system will have a change in itself, and they will actually move in something different, a vehicle which will be based on the ISO 20022. Now, listen to this video, you'll actually get a glimpse of that, which happened a year before, right?
In the standards that are flexible, but based on ISO 20022. We work with some institutions to expand where ISO 20022 can't cover the data required, but this is immediately shared with Sprout Bank to enable them to...
So Ripple, the company, is actually been working on ISO 20022 from 2019, and they were also looking at aspects where this standard cannot actually cover, right? So after 1 year, when they announced that is happening, that means many of those areas which couldn't be covered at that time would be now in the network, right? So as we move ahead, this is another video. In this, say 10 seconds, 20 seconds, you'll get some insights about what is coming in terms of a retail aspect of currency or a wholesale aspect of a currency.
Are the world reserve currency, easy transition. They've talked about having a retail SDR, which you and I would actually have access to, right, as well as a wholesale SDR, which is what governments and banks would have access to.
So you're under the impression that...
So the possibility cannot be actually turned down. Say there will be something for retail and something for the banks. So in that aspect, the banking networks will actually run through a different layer, which is interoperability layer, and at the bottom they can still provide us with the fiat currencies which all of us are using, but in between them this can actually really happen. As we move ahead, we also understand why this can be a possibility, because the counterparty risk and the liquidity risk is really rising during this turmoil, and if that is actually staying there for a couple more months or so on, the network of payments will be damaged, and banks cannot actually take that for more time, because that will actually ruin the entire economy into ashes. Now, as you move ahead, you can actually understand that the Hyperledger is actually working on a blockchain interoperability protocol, which is actually initiated by a Ripple partner Accenture. Now, yeah, it is highlighted as Ripple's partner Accenture because it is really needed. Because when you're talking about the interoperability layer and the movement of value from one ledger to another, you actually need a bridge asset, and Ripple, XRP, the token Ripple, is valid in that aspect. So when you actually go through this, it's an open source blockchain interoperability project started last year by Accenture in the Hyperledger lab. So this is actually happening. So the possibility cannot be actually turned down. Say there will be something for retail and something for the banks. So in that aspect, the banking networks will actually run through a different layer, which is interoperability layer, and at the bottom they can still provide us with the fiat currencies which all of us are using. But in between them, this can actually really happen. Now, as we move ahead, we also understand why this can be a possibility, because the counterparty risk and the liquidity risk is really rising during this turmoil. And if that is actually staying there for a couple more months or so on, the network of payments will be damaged, and banks cannot actually take that for more time, because that will actually ruin the entire economy into ashes. Now, as you move ahead, you can actually understand that the Hyperledger is actually working on a blockchain interoperability protocol, which is actually initiated by a Ripple partner Accenture. Now, yeah, it is highlighted as Ripple's partner Accenture because it is really needed. Because when you're talking about the interoperability layer and the movement of value from one ledger to another, you actually need a bridge asset. And XRP, the token Ripple, is valid in that aspect. So when you actually go through this, it's an open source blockchain interoperability project started last year by Accenture in the Hyperledger lab. So this is actually happening. And when you actually go through that, you also get the name of R3's coda in it. Since then, the enterprise Ethereum client Hyperledger BIS2 has been added. So more and more different types of blockchain networks are coming in. And at the same time, what you have to understand is banks are being prepared just for crypto. That means fiat can be put into that and it will be stored as different digital assets, meaning these banks will also be coming under something which can actually handle both the fiat and crypto, which can understand both the crypto and the fiat. So that is one aspect in which I'm saying the banking networks will be there, and the possibility of a central bank itself which can handle both the fiat and crypto will be there. Now, an institution which overlooks all of this across the globe is needed. Like, say, for example, now we have international organizations like BIS, IMF, World Bank and all. So that will be an aspect which Ripple can actually play with the existing escrowed amount of XRP, because that is the blade through which the entire transactions will be playing out. Now, this is another article which is actually pointing towards that. See, XRP is, as we know, the bridge between all the central bank digital currencies. Now, in the Ripple net itself, this will be validated. All the transactions will be validated, but with the escrowed amount of XRP being held onto it, and say every month they are releasing the escrow, but majority of it is actually being pumped back into the escrow itself. So that kind of gives me a point that this will stay like this, and say it won't be till the next 50 months or 40 months. Maybe it's a reserve there. And in that perspective, this will be the new world reserve in the sense of bridge asset. The fiats will not be disrupted. It will still be there for retailers, you and me, the normal individuals. But in between them, the banking networks, what run can be XRP. Now, coming and looking at the charts, we can actually see that as of now, we are getting a bounce from the previous long-term resistance turned support line, which is actually a positive thing, because that happens to be along with the 50-day moving average. So meaning the price actually went up, made a bull flag, but it failed to be bullish from there. It came back down. It got supported around the 50-day moving average as well as the resistance turned support. So now zooming in to see what is happening as of now, it's like we actually have moved closer to the 20-day moving average, and if we are able to get a pump, it should be like we'll move towards 0.22 and then retrace a bit and then pump towards 0.26, 0.27. Now, as we zoom even further out, say this is on a weekly chart, we can actually see that the candlestick pattern is showing that we are getting a huge resistance on a weekly at the 20-day moving average. So if we manage to breach above 0.22 and close above that, and then continue at least till 0.2526 like we discussed in the shorter time frame charts, that will actually change the situation like this. Then the overhead resistance will be around 50-day moving average. Last time we couldn't actually breach that, we got rejected and we dumped. So right now the eye should be actually focused on the price here, because as I told, shaking the weak hands can be using a pump or even using a dump. So prepare your mindset in that aspect, or you can actually lose the number of units you have. If you are receiving value out of the content, do hit the like button, subscribe button and the bell notification icon to get updated about the future videos.